Hi there, welcome back to the podcast, and great to have you with me as ever. So this week I wanted to respond to a query that I had when I was walking to an event in the week, and someone said to me, what do you do? And they said, I said, I've got a sales business where we help companies grow, we train, we build platforms for growth. And they said, so you're a failed salesman then? And it really struck with me, and so I wanted to, and someone else has also asked me in the podcast before, do I apply my own techniques? So I thought I'd just give a very brief, it's not going to last particularly long, overview as to what a typical sales week looks like for me. And I will share with you some successes from last week, a couple of, not failures, but a couple of areas where we could have got things done differently, and what a traditional sales week looks like for me. Mainly because whilst the guy was joking in part, it did make me think, actually, do people think that I don't sell? And for me, selling is a drug. It's something I love to do. My team will tell you, if you reach out to any of my teams, so Monya or Nisha or Abby, they'll tell you one of my worst things is I sell too often. I sell too much of the time. I struggle to turn down business. That's one of my big failings. So I thought I'd just talk through an average sales week and how I try and build a sales week so that you guys can get a feel for what I try and do in that situation. Now, I'll talk through a couple of different scenarios today as well, and how I approach those conversations and what they look like. But yeah, just gives you a sense of maybe what we do and how we do. And I will start by saying my own business, for those that wanted to know, is a sales training business. I have two businesses actually. The first is a sales platform business. I say train. We help organizations build sales frameworks to grow. And that can often be in a position where we will either train their team, so we've done some training recently, or we'll build some frameworks for them for their sales team to know how to approach sales conversations, or it can sometimes be that we'll even go in and help them do that directly. So if it's related to sales problems, and normally the companies we work with tend to be IT, software, financial services businesses, people that want to grow that aren't getting the growth they want. So to give an example of last week, what I try and do when I look at a week is try and make sure I try and plan out the day. The first thing that's really important for me, or plan out the week, is to try and do some elements of what I would call some time blocking. So what I will try and do is I will try and plan out the week based upon where I'm at and what I'm doing. And this applies to, I'm lucky enough now that I've been able to build a team, so I have some people that work with me in the business. But I try and ensure that we are focusing on sales activity certainly every week. I'm a big believer in something what I call fat funnels. So for me to be able to do the business that I do, I need lots of people at the top of the funnel. And in what I mean by the top of the funnel is lots of people that are potentially interested in hearing about what it is or what I do. And I talk about being fat funnels. The fatter that funnel is, the more people you have up there, the more chance you have then of being in a position to convert business lower down the funnel. And also the more people that want your services versus demand and supply that you have, you can move prices upwards to do more things. So I was looking to try and build, the funnel at the top of the funnel. And for me, content is a really key part of that. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, if we haven't connected on LinkedIn, I'll put a link into the show. James White Sales on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I'm always sharing content on there. I also have a YouTube channel, as you guys will know, called Diary of a Sales Expert, where I share videos on there, where we have links to different downloads and resources. I've got a range of resources on my website, which continually will generate leads for us. So we've basically got a lot of content that goes out there. But I also make sure that we focus on engaging with our target audience and people we want to engage with ourselves. So I will try and look to, on a daily basis, connect with 3 potential business owners that I think could be a good fit for what we do and how we do it. So from a prospecting perspective, we're always visible to engage and to be on the front foot. Where I have the time, and sometimes, and this is a fight a battle here, I'm often in client, working with clients on certain days. So it's sometimes it's harder for me to do that, but I love the idea of prospecting time. So what I can do is when I have a spare day, I will put some prospecting time aside, and that will include maybe an hour or two for pick up the phone. So I still pick up the phone. I still love to pick up the phone and have conversations with people I don't know. The conversations that I have in those situations, and I was talking to a client this week about how to approach it, are always value-based. So when I try and talk to a business owner, I will traditionally talk about, look, I'm talking to lots of business owners. They want to grow. I've got some resources that can help you do that. Would you be interested in me sharing that? And one of our content team have just produced a new resource called How to Grow and Build a Business That Can Operate Without You. If you'd like a copy of that, let us know. We can share that with you. But the whole thing I will try and do is then share that with the people I'm talking to. My approach to selling in those situations is not to do you want to buy my services, because I don't believe that approach works. But what I will do is try and create value and create an insight that makes the other person think, okay, this is helpful. So, as I said, we have content at the top of the funnel. We also have what we call some lead magnets. And the lead magnets we have are lead resources that go to a page. So, for example, one of my most popular lead resources is a 52 question sales resource. And I also have a sales test. And so we get people that will complete the sales test. And it's called Help I Don't Have a Sales Plan. They complete that test, and then I will pick the phone up to have a conversation with people. And sometimes people say, oh, am I talking to James? I'm like, yeah, hey, this is me. I want to have a conversation with you. So if you are listening to the podcast and you complete our Help I Need a Sales Plan quiz, you may well get a call from me. And I'm very happy to have a conversation with you to find out a bit more about your business, what's happening. I was talking to a business owner a couple of weeks ago, a guy called Max. If you're listening, then great to have you still with us. And he completed the scorecard, and I picked up the phone and had a conversation. And we've since then had some separate conversations where we've had some time to talk through some of the things that he wants to achieve and how I can maybe help that. So yeah, I will always try and make some time for sales every week. I think sales is like going to the gym. If you go to the gym once and then expect to be fit, then it's not going to work. You have to be doing it on a consistent basis. So firstly for me, it's about time blocking that. So looking where I can in my diary, put time aside for time blocking. But invariably, I will try and connect with 3 people on LinkedIn every day. I try and put 3 as a minimum. And what I will generally do in those messages is most of the time I'll send it without a note. A lot of the time I think sending a note can sometimes be a bit clunky and look a bit weird. If I do engage with someone that I've not met before, though, that I think, no, I'd really like what they do or how they do it, then I will customize the message. So I will customize the message based upon what I've seen them do, or the messages I'll send to them will be based upon their situation. So I might look at an award they've won recently or something they've achieved and connect from there. So what we do with those first calls, whether it's a first call from an outbound activity that we make, or whether it's an inbound lead opportunity, the first calls I'll do is I was always trying to have a conversation with people and find out a bit more about their situation. So I had a call this week with an organization or a person from an organization, and the first approach that I use in that conversation is to find out about them. And this is, again, a secret of sales that I talk about a lot, that sales isn't about you as the seller, it's about the other side. So what I did ahead of that call, and I had one of these calls this week where I did a bit of research, did a bit of social media searching. So I got the person's name and searched on social media, on Google, to find out what I could about them, and got a bit of background information. And then I approached the call very much a human way. So when I first picked up the phone, when we first connected on the phone, I basically, asked some questions around how their morning's been, how they're, have they had a good day, and built up a little bit of rapport that way. And when I felt that person, was a little bit cautious, things, I was like really clear, right? Great, look, really great to speak to you. Your time is valuable, so is mine. What would make this conversation really useful for you? And they proceeded to then tell me about some challenges they'd had in their business where they'd wanted to grow over the period of a year, and that growth hadn't happened. And they were a bit frustrated by it. And I then proceeded to say, okay, talk me through that frustration. What's driving you to get to that point? What was the reason for things not happening? So I went into a conversation with them around what stopped them from doing it. I asked them to describe their business to me. I asked them to describe their current team and what they have in place. And so the first 15 minutes of that call was pretty much them talking for, I'm going to say, 90% of the time, and me just asking questions as and when they came up. So one of the big secrets I talk about in sales a lot as well is if the other person is talking more often, then that's better. You're in control. Those that ask the questions are in control. But if you're talking too much, then I'm going to tell you now you probably need to reverse that. It's probably going to be a stage where people feel that they've been talked at, and that's not going to necessarily work for you. So I had a good conversation with that person. We talked about some challenges, as I say, that they were facing and some things they wanted to do. And what I've then been able to say, and what I always do, and again, I've said this in many different podcasts and episodes, what I will always do is at the end of a conversation, I will always then arrange a date and time for the next meeting. And from that, what I will always say, and this is exactly the words I used, look, really enjoyed chatting today. What I'd like to do is arrange a follow-up conversation with you. How does next? I think we've got a meeting booked now for a week and a half time because that person's on holiday. How does that time work? Let's put that in the diary. I'll send you the invite now. I'll send you some information in the meantime related to your issue. And if it turns out that on that date you have found another solution or you feel it's not right for you anymore, no dramas. Just let me know on that call. Let's just have the conversation to at least know where we both are. So what I've done is I've automatically in that space given them the ability to go, okay, I'm not going to be sold to. Now, even though we may have a conversation around some of what I can do at that point in time, at that stage, they don't feel like they're being sold to. They feel like they're being helped because I'm sharing some value for them. So that's what we're going to do. So we've got a meeting booked up. I'm recording this on in the middle of July, and we've got a meeting booked up towards the end of July where I have another sales conversation with that person and see what happens. So I also have, as you guys know, a business called Growth Resourcing, which is a calling business in South Africa where we pick up the phone and have calls for companies. And I had a call with an organisation this week, again, around the same thing. They've been looking to recruit some salespeople and have been struggling to do that. So I had a sales call with that team. I don't actually think that company is right for us. And the honest answer is they were looking for a really cheap resource. They felt that South Africa was a really cheap resource and country to get people in place. And it is, don't get me wrong, you can get some very cheap resources there. But our focus at Growth Resourcing is not on the cost, but it's all about the value and the quality of the people we bring on board. And it was quite clear to me early in the process that they were going to focus on price as being the issue. And I was then at that point, a little bit wary. It sent some red flags for me. And I was quite clear to them that you can get people on board that are very good value, but the quality can sometimes let you down and you can waste time and energy doing that. So we have arranged for a follow-up conversation. I've shared a little bit of information around our team and what we do. But I felt at the end of the conversation, and I actually think the words I used were, it's probably likely that we're not a good fit for you based upon the requirements you have. So one of the other key elements around sales is if you can use your intuition, but also some questions that you ask to what I call triage leads, then that's a better thing for you to do. And the reason being is because if you triage leads at an early stage, and what I mean by triage is that you ask the questions to know which direction to put them in. This particular case, I'm being honest, not going to put a huge amount of time and effort into that conversation. The reason being, I'll have the next discussion follow up, and I've just done a simple email to them, which was a summary of our conversation, which AI provided a lot of that detail for me anyway. But I'm not going to carry on sharing loads and loads more details. And they talked about a proposal, and I said, we'll come to that at a point in time once we get a bit more information from you and I share a couple of resources. But I don't think they're a good fit. They're looking for a really cheap resource, and we're obviously it's cheaper than necessarily hiring someone in the UK, but if price is the only issue, I'm sort of walking away. So triaging or being able to make sure you assess new leads is a really key part of the sales process. And so my big message to you from that is don't just sell to it and think every lead is the same. Ask the questions. Yes, you'd like to work with everyone, but your time and energy and emotion is more important. So whilst I love winning business and I smile when I win business, I'm going to share with you a story where I've won business this week. In that situation, I don't think it's going to be a good fit. So the other thing I also then do, and I should have said this maybe at the start, is when I'm trying to find new business, one of the things I will also do is a lot of networking. Those that have followed me or seen me on social media, I love my golf. I'm a big golf fan. I have a handicap of 8, so I'm not an amazing golfer, but I'm okay. And love to go to golf. I'm actually captain of an organisation this year, which is called Mashi. If you've not heard of Mashi Networks and wanted to get involved in Mashi, reach out to me. If you're a golfer, let's have a conversation. So I attended a golf event on Wednesday night, and that was where this person said to me, salespeople tend to be failed salespeople. So that was where he inspired this podcast episode. But what I also then did is had a day on the following day, a Thursday, a golf day in Surrey, where I met maybe two other guys, and that was a brilliant day. Sometimes you meet people on the course and it can work out really, it doesn't work out. But the two guys I met were both really big potential opportunities, certainly for growth resourcing. And one of the people I met on the Thursday, we actually had a conversation on the Friday afternoon to talk about what our growth resourcing team could do. They run a venue in London. They have enough people coming to that venue. It's a brilliant venue. I've been there, and we talked about how someone could pick up the phone and just have some conversations with local businesses, and we're probably going to do some business as a result of that. So the way I've left it is very much a case of we're actually going to have a follow-on meeting next week, so to talk through what those options are, and we're going to send them an outline of what it looks like. But I was very clear about he as a business owner. And this is, again, something I've learned in sales conversations that I encourage you to look at, is not everyone is the same. So I looked at this guy and I was like, as a business owner, he's quite direct about what he wants and what he's looking for, but very nice guy. And I was able to go, okay, I know I need to be a little bit direct back. If I'd have been a bit obtuse and not shared information, he would have got frustrated. So I shared information back, and so we're going to potentially do some business with growth resourcing. He's going to take maybe one, maybe two, but certainly one of our growth resourcing team in South Africa to make calls to get people to attend his venue. So that was one of those calls. And then the other thing, just to finish off this session around selling, was I had a call on the Friday afternoon with an organisation based in Wales that I'd been referred to. So a good contact of mine, who's someone who's known and worked with me and seen the work that I do, had referred me to these two directors of company, and they want to be in a position where they've basically doubling their business. They've got a financial incentive with a company that's made an investment in them, that if they can double their revenue over the course of the next 2 years, that they can it will help them achieve their earn-out, basically. And long story short, they are two engineers who don't feel they have all the information on how to build a sales engine to get to that place. And we're going to work together. So my week finished off on Friday afternoon with me selling our initial day that we do. So whenever I work with any organisation, the first thing I will do is to go in and spend time in that organisation for a day. I don't think it's right that you can try and advise people on how they can grow and double their business and build without spending time with them. When I spend time in companies, I get a sense of what's going on, what's happening in the business, the dynamics of the people, what's working well, what's not working well. It's just better. And I do that face to face still. And I still do that face to face because I feel I can get a sense of what's happening in order to give them the best possible advice. And that I also, have in this situation. This was the second call that we'd had. In the first call, we talked about what that solution could look like, and I outlined some elements of how it would work, where we will go in, and then we'll provide some support and help over a period of 6 to 12 months for them to then build this engine and build these people in place. And I was very honest and open with them about what they needed. Shared some value in there as well, so shared some things of what they can do. And what I also said in that same conversation is the same as what I've said in other sales conversations. And again, maybe you think, why is he doing this? I said to them, look, we'll have this day, and if it turns out you don't like me and you don't feel that I'm a good fit to work with you, then I'll be the first to say, hey, let's leave it there, guys. At least you've got a report. In that first day, we provide a plan outline that says, in order to achieve what you want, you need to do the following. I said, at least you'll have a map to be able to then go and do what you want to do, and to move forward from that place. And that's what we'll do. And we'll do that we've booked that in now for the early part of August to have that day where I'll go on site with them, get to know a bit more about them, what's happening, and help them build their plan to achieve the revenue numbers that they want to. And if it's not possible, I'll also tell them that. One of the things I think it's really important for me to do is to tell the executives, what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And in some situations, if they need to make changes or do different things, then I'll share that as well. So my week by Friday, even though I had 3 days on site, 2 days on site with clients, and then a day, playing golf. There you go. I achieved. I had, 4 sales calls, of which one resulted in, or 2 resulted in, or one definitely has resulted in business. We actually got the confirmation from the customer that they're keen to go forward, and one which will result in business as well. So, to those people that say I don't sell, there's your answer. I sell and love to sell, and If I could sell every day, I would. If I could sit on call, to me, there's nothing better than having calls with people and digging in and find out that they're a fit and then helping them solve some issues. So I still think selling, as I said at the start, is a drug. It's something I feel great about. I feel like a peacock when it happens. I'm going to tell you, if you're listening to this and if you were the person that we've agreed business with, I came off that phone buzzing. A, because I'm excited to work with that company, and I am truly excited because I think I can make a big impact for them. But B, because the feeling of winning business just feels amazing. And I was at home and I went down and saw my wife, and she said, she saw my smile on my face, and she was able to say, you've won another deal, haven't you? And I was like, yep. And that's what I love doing. So, so don't listen to the fact that people think that every sales trainer or sales trainers are failed salespeople. I still sell every week, certainly where I can. I have conversations with people certainly on a weekly basis. I connect. I do things to make stuff happen, and it's why I've been able to grow my business. And my business is a small business. I'm not going to say, but we'll hit record numbers this year. We're probably going to grow up 30% from our revenue from last year, and we're pushing upwards towards achieving revenue of £400,000, which for a training business and with 3 people, I think is pretty good. So we're making good steps forward. So look, that I thought I'd share that with you. I hope it's been interesting and useful. If it hasn't, then you'll tell me, I'm sure. But let me know. Reach out, as I always do, on the comment section, James White Sales, if this is helpful or not. If it is, then which are the bits that you found most helpful? Which were the bits that you want more insight on? But as I always do, I finish the podcast on an inspirational story. And I wanted just to do the story of a guy called Terry Fox. Terry's based in Canada, and he lost a leg to cancer a number of years ago. And he embarked on something what he called the Marathon of Hope, where he wanted to obviously raise money for cancer research. And Terry ran over 3,300 miles for this cause, and now runs a series of workshops of series of events worldwide to help people deal with cancer. And I thought, when someone's lost a leg, the easy thing for us all to do is to say, no, it's okay, I'm not going to do something this time, or we'll leave that to it, or okay, it's easy to give an excuse. And I just think that someone like Terry Fox's story, which is that he didn't want to give an excuse, he wanted to do what he wanted to do, and then set about doing it. And when you think about running 3,300 miles with one leg, that's a pretty big thing that he's done. So congratulations. Take inspiration from Terry. As someone, if he's he went through a tough day, he came through it and is now inspiring other people. How can you do the same thing? So that's it for this week. I hope it's been helpful and useful for you, and you've enjoyed it. Listen to the stories around how what an average sales week looks like for me. Next week I've got, as I say, more days with clients. I'm with clients, I think, on 3 of those days. So it's great that we're busy, but I always still make time for selling. It's key. And I encourage you to make some time for selling today. Get your diary out, put 2, even if it's 1 or 2 hours in the diary for calls or for emails or for LinkedIn connections or whatever it is you do. But make time for sales. You have to do it every week. It should become really, I think, an hourly discipline per day if you can. And if you make that happen, then you're going to see results, not straight away, but over time. Like going to the gym, you don't get fit straight away, but over a consistent period of time, you get results. And that's the same for selling. But that's it for this week. Thanks for listening, guys, as ever. Have a brilliant week. Stay safe, and I'll see you then. Take care.